The Plotcast Podcast with the Potty Plotters.
Hello and welcome back to the Potty Plotters podcast. That was probably the fastest I've ever done, but there you go, Julia. It's not a competition, as you always say, but this is episode 41 and I'm still Elaine.
And I'm still Julia.
That's good. Right then, so how do people find us? I'm going to flick this over to you and see if you can remember.
It's Facebook, Instagram or Twitter at Potty Plotters, TikTok at The Potty Plotters. You can email us naughtycorner at pottyplotters.uk, or you can have a look at our website, pottyplotters.uk.
And we've still not got that little round of applause that we do need at the end of every one of them.
Thank you very much.
Right then, what we're going to do today, we are out and about on the plots. It has been cold. We have had frost.
It has been mighty cold, and I know that we talk about using your tights quite a lot on the site. Right. And actually now the tights are going into a different use, which is underneath our trousers to keep our legs warm, isn't it, Elaine?
It is, yeah, because I think that does make a big difference, actually. I don't know if any of the lads use them, but my dad used to wear them when, hello.
What do you suggest?
Yeah, when my dad used to work outside, he was a labourer, and he used to wear tights, because it's another layer and it really does make a difference.
Shall we get the lads to drop the trousers when we go and see them then?
Well, I'm just thinking about Gareth sat there and he's got two tops on, hasn't he? Yeah. I'm just saying, he's putting fingers up, and that isn't a V for victory. No, 3, yeah, interesting.
But yes, it is a tad cold, and like you say, we have had the frost, haven't we? So that's the dahlias.
Gone. And and the microphones, we've got icicles on these microphones. Have you got anything to warm them up? Hey, it'll soon be water bottle time.
Oh yeah.
That's just reminded me.
Yeah, if you hear us start gurgling, we've got the water bottles out. Yeah.
The Plotcast Podcast with the Potty Plotters.
Today, though, before it gets so cold, we're going to be out and about on the plots, and we're going to look at figs.
Are we?
We certainly are. And we're going to talk about them and fruit bushes. And also, I wanted to get something in about chard, and that's besides questions that have come in locally, i.e. the lads on the site have actually been asking us questions.
Yeah, suddenly they need these answers. So Steve, Elaine, has asked us, now that the rhubarb has kind of, it's frosted, it's melted. What does he do with the leaves? Does he need to take them off, or does he need to just leave them to rot into the ground?
Well, you can do either, but what I do is I just scrape round, I get my rake over them and rake them all off, and then I put them on the compost, and they disappear, they go black, and they literally do melt. But don't do anything else to the crowns. That's the bits that are still sticking up. Right. Leave them, and then what we'll do in a couple of weeks is we'll get the old horse muck and we'll put it all the way round. Ooh. And snuggle them down for winter.
Now they've gone dormant, Elaine, we can actually dig some of them up and share them, can't we? Because if anyone's listening who's perhaps inherited some on the plot and it's not been very productive, or you've got people who are looking for crowns, if you've got it for a couple of years, it always helps them to kind of revitalise them, to cut them and give a bit away, give a few crowns away, and it rejuvenates them, doesn't it?
Definitely, and it is worth doing, actually. What I would also do is just make sure that they're weed free around that area, and it's only simply because of all the slugs, because the slugs do like to find rotting vegetation, so shift it and then they've got nothing to eat, they'll clear off to your plot instead of mine.
Thanks.
I just thought I'd tell you.
Okay, and who else has been sending questions?
Right, well, Callum, now we talked to Callum not so long ago. Well, saying that, it's probably a long time ago. Yeah, Gareth is nodding. Yeah. Yes. Right, we talked to Callum some time ago, and he has grown in the community polytunnel lots of loofahs. Ooh. And I saw him yesterday. Honestly, I just love them. But they're still green. Yeah. So we're almost sort of into almost winter, to tell you the truth. And he was asking what he can do to hurry them on so that they go dark brown. My answer is I haven't got an answer. The only thing that I would suggest is cut them off and put them somewhere warmer. Now, I don't know if that's going to work, but he needs to get the outside skin to the eggshell stage, and they'll go dark brown.
I'll interject what I would do. I'll interject because he actually asked me as well. He's obviously comparing notes.
Oh, how rude!
He's comparing notes, and what I advised him to do was, because he was allowing it to carry on growing, Elaine, and set new fruit, which of course is then taking all the energy from doing what we need it to do, which is set the shell on the loofah itself. So I told him, nip any growing tip out and stop watering, because he was still watering. Well, goodness me. He needs to listen to both of us, doesn't he then?
Well, you know what these men are like sometimes. They just don't want to listen.
Yeah. Well, he'll have no loofahs, will he?
Contact the Potty Plotters anytime on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram @PottyPlotters, or email naughtycorner@pottyplotters.uk.
Right then, fruit bushes. Julia, this time of year, what we're supposed to do with them? Let's start with strawberries.
Strawberries.
They're not a bush, they're a thing.
No, all I do with the strawberries at this time of year is I just tidy up any dead leaves at the bottom, and then they're quite happy outside. You don't need to do anything. A lot of people want to bring them inside. Don't bring them inside. They need that frost to kind of rejuvenate them. Can't remember that word, where they kind of need the frost to get going next year, but that's what they do, so don't do anything with them other than taking the dead leaves off.
Okay, that's lovely. Now then, black currants and red currants.
Oh, now black currants and red currants, if you haven't got any, now is the perfect time, I think, to be going out buying yourself some bare rooted currant bushes, because bare rooted, as we say, are much cheaper and they're really good values, and they'll get going quite quickly over the winter months. So now is the time, though, to prune them. So with the black currants, what you're looking at is pruning out the old wood, the oldest wood.
The dark brown wood.
The dark brown wood. So you can actually see when you're looking at the bush as to the age of it by the texture and also the colour of the branches. So what you're doing is looking at about taking a third of the old wood out so that you rejuvenate it, because you want the new wood to come up, because it actually fruits on last year's canes. So the more you can get new shoots coming through, the more you're going to have a continuous supply. And red currants, you grow red currants, don't you?
I do, yeah, and I do exactly the same as you've just said, although I am going to make more space this year. I'm going to dig some out, and that will be happening in the next couple of weeks, so that I've got more space for everything to grow, because I did put them too close together.
Well, actually, let's be fair, you didn't. It was your husband.
It was my husband, yeah. I'm not going to blame him, but he didn't really listen to this. He didn't listen to me.
And I don't think you should take the blame for it when he did it.
Okay.
But so are you getting rid of all your currant bushes altogether?
Yeah, I want to start all over again.
Are you not putting any new ones in?
I don't think so. I think I'm going to go more to flowers this year. And these have been here for around 7 years, and they have gone woody.
Right.
So although I had a lot of berries off them, I've decided that I am going to change my plot round. Yeah. And then what I'll do is, when I have dug it all over, is I will put some currants in, but somewhere else.
Right.
I've got a new raised bed, and that reminds me of a question. So I'm going to put them into a different raised bed, and I'll do that later in the year.
So the red currants, you prune back to, is it about one bud above this year's growing
tip?
Yeah.
And
that is that because it grows on the older wood rather than the new, like last year's wood?
It will take a year for them to actually get established, so that they will grow on them then. Yeah. And it does sound complicated. The alternative is, Julia, just to leave them. Yeah. And truthfully, when I've left them before, it's not done them any harm whatsoever. And I've still got an abundance of red currants.
Yeah. And blueberry bushes, I'm just looking at them. Now is not the time to do anything with them. So don't touch them. Don't prune them at all this time.
Well, the leaves just drop off.
Yeah, the leaves all drop off, and we'll be looking at pruning them during the dormant season, but we'll be looking at kind of about March time, when the weather starts to improve and the last frosts are coming to an end.
Okay, now then, I saw Steve. Is he plot 6 or 7? 6.
Yeah.
He's 6. I saw him this morning, and he was talking about his raspberries.
Oh, yeah.
And he was saying that they're still in fruit, ironically, even though we've had frosts. And what should he do now? Right. Now, these are autumn ones.
Okay. So the autumn raspberries, you just literally cut all the canes back down to the ground.
When would you do that then?
I would do it once they've stopped fruiting. So probably between November and February, March time, and that's fine. That's the right time to do it. If you've got summer fruiting, you should have already done them. But what you do is cut down this year's canes and you'll have some new shoots coming up. So leave the new ones, and you'll be able to see by the colour of them and the kind of flexibility of them really as to whether they're new or not, and leave those ones but cut the old ones down.
We've come from the beer garden and over to your beautiful Chard, Julia. That is not Chard as in London.
No.
This is edible stuff.
We love it, don't we?
Yeah.
We do love it because it's very similar to spinach in taste and texture, but it's very productive, and it's also a perennial, Elaine.
Well, and I was going to ask you, what are you going to do to it at this time of year? Because we have had frost and it hasn't affected them at all, has it?
Well, what I'm going to do to it is nothing other than keep harvesting. So when you're harvesting chard, if you want it for a salad, you go in for the lower leaves and go for the nice fresh new leaves. But if you want to use it, say, as a spinach or like a cabbage, just keep pulling it from the base at the bottom, like we do when we're getting the rhubarb. That's all you're doing, and just keep taking the leaves off and using it. But it's a fantastic plant, and it look beautiful in the sunshine. And I would actually plant that in amongst some flowers because it's so beautiful.
It is lovely, but what are you going to do with that now?
Well, I'm going to eat it. Not now while we're on the plot, but I'm going to take it home, and I like to use it in things like curries. Just chop it up and pop it in a curry and use it like a spinach. So that's what I'm going to do.
And do you do that with the stalk as well?
Well, yeah, just pop everything in, no waste, Elaine.
Okay. Julia, a lovely fig tree, I would say, and I can see that you've still got loads and loads that haven't matured on here. So at this time of year, what are you going to do?
Yeah, well, this is a tree that I actually inherited with the plot, and it was quite small when I had it. And it's planted, I don't know if you can see, it's got a very small base at the bottom because you really need to constrain the base of a fig tree. But this time of year, you can see that the leaves are starting to turn yellow, but I've got loads and loads of green figs on here. And although they're a reasonable size, they're not going to...
Reasonable? Yeah. They're tiny, Julia.
In my world, that's quite big. In your world, everything's tiny. But as you can see, it's got loads on, but they're not going to ripen now because we're not going to have the weather for it.
No.
So unfortunately, it's one of those sad things you can do is take all of the big figs off at this time of year because they're not going to do anything. But what you do is you leave the ones on that are around the size of a marble. You see like that? And what that does, that's the figs for next year. So they will stay on and they will ripen for next year, hopefully a bigger size, and it'll ripen earlier in the season.
So that's just a bigger one that needs taking off because you can't do anything with them, but just the size of a marble. Okay then, and leave them on.
Leave them on, the marble size ones. Take everything else off, although they do naturally drop off as the season as winter comes on. But and there'll be no pruning yet. It's the wrong time to prune a fig tree, so just take the big figs off.
The Plotcast podcast with the Potty Plotters.
So that's chard and also figs. So I think we can put that to bed now.
Yeah.
Okay, and let's carry on and let's look at clearing the greenhouse. And this morning, that's exactly what I've been doing. Why should we bother clearing the greenhouse? Why don't we just leave everything to die back naturally, and then we'll have less debris to sort out in the spring?
Well, if you leave it, Elaine, you're more likely to encourage diseases to start off with. And also, if you leave your tomatoes, they're going to drop off and then they're going to fall on the floor and you're going to end up with like a forest of tomatoes in there, which none of them will be any good because they'll be that close together and you won't know which is which. So it's always a good idea to clean out. It's good for hygiene. It gets rid of any pests and like I say, any diseases. When you You raised your eyebrow then at pests. What pests have you had in your greenhouse?
Well, I've had Steve. He's been one at times, let me tell you, telling me what I should have done or could have done or would have done if it was his.
Yeah.
And of course, then I've had Kev as well. And he just likes to nosy and needs a reminder that he says he's only going to grow one type of tomato, so don't let him grow any other type than Belladine. That's what he was saying to me. I can guarantee that is not the case. He will change his mind.
We'll refer back to episode 41 next year for him.
Okay. Right. But what I can say, Julia, is the pests that I have had in there, I've just noticed that there's very few actually, but I have left my greenhouse windows wide open.
Yeah.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to finish now clearing all of everything that's in there, including the marigolds, although I will take some seeds from those for next year, and then everything else can go onto the compost heap. Not a problem. However, there is breaking news. Do you remember my Red Robin tomatoes?
Can we forget your Red Robin tomatoes?
No, because if you remember, we set them very early. I had the first flush of fruit off them.
Yes.
And then I remember saying to you when the Alicante and Shirley and the Belladines and all the rest of them were taking over, I said, right, I'm going to cut these down, that's it, and then I shall shake off all the compost and put that onto the raised beds. Well, if you remember, I watered them, then left them, and they started to grow again. And I've never had that with any tomatoes, not like that. But I can tell you that I have got fruit that has turned.
Oh, well done. Can I just claim a little bit of that? Because while
you can't, because that's mine.
Well, while you were poorly, I went in and watered them for you because I was...
Once.
Twice.
Twice. Right, okay. And that's your claim, is it? That you looked after them? Well, thanks for that.
That's still my victory, though, isn't it, as well? Anyway.
Right, okay.
So you've got tomatoes on those, so that's great.
Yeah, you wait there and I'll just go and get them.
Wait
I'm going now. You
wait
just very well wait there. Now then. Now here is my Red Robin tomatoes.
Oh, yeah.
And although the plant itself isn't very tall, look.
It's got a 4 on it. Yeah, it's got a 4 on it.
Yeah.
2 orange, 2 green.
Turning.
Yeah.
Who would have thought that?
While you were going off there and fetching it, we want to know what happened to Gareth. Do you remember that one that you rescued from his house?
Yeah.
What happened to it?
Well, anyway, it's a crime scene.
So we don't think it was the Red Robin.
It was very difficult to look after. And next year what we learn is don't give him any plants. What we'll do is we'll just grow the tomatoes and give him the tomatoes. It's much easier. Cut the middle bit out.
We can't grow everybody. So we're meant to be advising people on how to grow. Yeah.
Right, okay. Well, the advice is, Gareth, don't grow them again.
Right. Anyway, back from the Red Robin tomatoes, Elaine, you were clearing out your greenhouse. Can I ask, is now the time to be cleaning down the glass and also smoke bombing it?
Yes. And what I'm going to do is, as soon as I have cleared everywhere, what I'll do is I'll bring my spongy moppy thingy, and then I use Fairy Liquid. I know that you use proper stuff. Can I say Fairy Liquid, Gary? Yeah. Okay, then I've said it. And all I do is a bucket of hot water, and then I just rinse down everywhere and give it a right good scrub. And then I'm going to leave it. I will rake over the compost that's in there, because I grow straight into the ground in the big curvy greenhouse, and into the other one it's already done, tell you the truth, so I'll just do the glass on both, but I will do it again then in spring so that it lets in maximum light.
Okay. And are you going to smoke bomb it?
No, I don't think I am actually. I haven't had any diseases or anything in there this year. I've done really well. What about you?
Well, I am going to smoke bomb it. Just, I think it's good practice, and because there's always like the risk of the spider mites and everything in there.
Yeah, you get spider mite, don't you?
Well, yeah, because I grow the plants that attract them, the aubergines and the cucumbers and things attract them more. So yeah, but when I say smoke bomb, it's garlic bombing is what I'm going to be doing in there.
Julia, can I recommend you grow Red Robin tomatoes? Because it's such a lot of faff that you're going through, lovely. Get some of these and everybody will be happy.
There's only so many tomatoes I can eat, Elaine.
Oh, I don't know.
Hints and tips for shortcuts to success. The Potty Plotters Plotcast.
Would anybody like to sponsor the podcast in the future? If so, why not get in touch? Do you need a reminder, Julia, how people can get in touch?
Yes, they can email us.
This is like a memory test for you now.
Oh, gosh, that's not very good, is it? They can email us, naughtycorner@pottyplotters.uk. That's how they can get in touch with us.
That makes sense, doesn't it?
Yeah.
All right then. So, if you want to, get in touch.
Top-notch advice, no Latin included. The Potty Plotters Podcast.
Well, I wanted to talk about old men's tales.
Did you really?
That doesn't sound quite right, does it?
No.
But no, it's tales that we often hear where people try to tell us what we should do rather than what we do.
Right.
And the reason I want to do it, Julia, is it's about sweet peas.
Yes.
Now, a long time ago, in fact, it was very near the beginning of doing podcasts, we talked about growing sweet peas. And I know that people at this time of year, so creeping into the winter months, they like to set sweet peas now so that they give them a good run through the winter, get established for them to start again in the spring. However, I thought that perhaps now we could do a little test.
I have preempted.
You're getting on my nerves this week, Julia.
It's like I knew what was coming. So while you were on your sick bed...
I was only off a week.
Yes. Well, it felt like a lifetime. But anyway,
so quiet.
It really was. While you were away,
yes,
I went into our save seeds that we've been saving, that we've got hundreds and thousands of, and I thought, I am going to set some sweet peas as an experiment. Because can you remember Keith telling us to do it? And I thought, I will listen to Keith, and I've set all my sweet peas and I've set them in root trainers. And believe it or not, they're already coming up. So this
Don't you look at me like that.
So this will be the experiment, because the root trainers should really help with the root system, obviously.
With them being longer.
And that is supposedly one of the reasons for doing it now, is to establish a really good root system. So let's see, we'll follow our normal method of pre-chitting them in the container, and we'll see whether they are a stronger plant altogether. I mean, I've always been happy with what we've done, but let's see. And I suppose people want to plant things now because it's that time of year when you're not doing very much in terms of planting, and it's just like looking forward, isn't it? Okay,
so you've already set some.
Yes.
And so what we need to do is just to explain to people to either go back over the podcasts to find out about sweet peas, or why don't we tell them what to do?
The way that we've always done it, we set our sweet peas around February time, and we use the container method. So it's something that we've done for things that are hard to germinate, and sweet peas are quite hard to germinate because they have quite a hard shell on the outside, and we'd heard all kinds of methods about nicking them and using a bit of sandpaper on them.
Vinegar, soaking them in vinegar overnight.
And so all we do is basically get a takeaway container, and as long as it's got a sealed lid, and then we just put the kitchen towel at the bottom of it, wet it, but not so it's dripping, Elaine. We need to tip any excess water off so it's damp. We sprinkle our sweet peas on the top. We cover it again with some more damp kitchen towel, seal the container, and then we just put it somewhere warm, like a windowsill, and just let them germinate. And they do that within about 5 to 7 days. And then what we do is we take the sweet peas that have germinated and pop them in compost, and then they get going, and we just leave them to get going until we're ready to pinch them out. But that's another story altogether.
Okay, well, we'll have a go at that in February. I might have a little go now, actually.
You're going to have a go at the
I'm just thinking, well,
Oh.
if you've already started some in root trainers, why not just have a little go now? Set some and see if they are comparable to yours.
Well, I like people who experiment. It's always good to experiment because, you know, we might not have the right solution here.
We have. Right, well, that's it for this week. Thanks again for listening. And Julia, I've still got loads to do on my plots. I'm still clearing, sorting, still got loads of beetroot.
Oh, I've got loads of beetroot as well. In fact,
I thought you would have, yeah. Now then. You haven't got any of these tomatoes though, have you?
No, but I've got so many carrots you wouldn't believe, Elaine.
What about parsnips?
Got loads of parsnips.
Right, okay.
Loads of squashes.
Yeah.
I can feel a soup or something coming on.
Right, well, that's good for you then. So, next week we'll be talking about overwintering plants, and I'm determined to talk about these, like peas and broad beans, and I think this time of year's debate, should we plant or not over the winter months? So don't answer it, Julia. It's not a question. It's for next week. And we're also going to be talking about wood. Wood in winter.
Wood in winter?
Yeah, not a wood like in a forest.
Okay.
But wood stuff.
Yeah.
Actually, thinking about it, Kev's been putting wood on his plot today.
Oh, yeah. He's been making a raised bed, hasn't he? What's that all about?
Well, I don't think he realises what a raised bed is. It's not just a piece of wood round soil. Does he know that?
No, I think we'd better go and give him instruction, Elaine.
Not sure whether he's going to listen, so take a cup of tea with you and he might listen then. Tell him to take his earplugs out though, Julia.
The Plotcast podcast with the Potty Plotters is an Amberland Media production.